In 1492, Christopher Columbus crossed the Atlantic Ocean and arrived in the Americas. Within a few decades, Spanish explorers encountered the great civilization of South America, the Inca Empire. This empire was one of the largest in the world, and their advanced technology and sophisticated political structures left the European colonizers in awe. The Incas were the last South American empire, but they weren't the first. The continent had seen a long line of vastly unique civilizations spanning the continent. The first group of settlers arrived in South America around 15,000 years ago and consisted of peoples that had migrated from Asia through Alaska and into the Americas. It took another several thousand years for South American peoples to develop agriculture 8,500 years ago, and another several thousand years to domesticate animals around 5,500 years ago. Due to the environment, archaeologists know much more about the Andean region than the Amazon region, so the earliest evidence of civilization on that continent can be found in the mountains and not in the rainforests. The first civilization in South America was named the Norte Chico civilization. It arose around the year 3500 BCE in modern-day Peru, per the earliest available evidence. It consisted of several different settlements, including Huaricanga and the settlement of Caral Supe. These names are still referred to today. The following are some key aspects of this ancient civilization: the production of textiles using cotton crops, reliance on fish as a source of food, alongside crops such as potatoes, squashes, and beans, the construction of earthen mounds, stone pyramids, and sunken plazas. While it is impossible to know for sure, archaeologists theorize that this civilization must have had a centralized and sophisticated government to construct its pyramids. Like other early civilizations, the leaders of Caral Supe might have also held religious roles, communing with deities in order to bring about better luck and blessings for their people. Notably, Caral Supe was a pre-ceramic civilization. It did not produce clay pots for storing or transporting materials. After a millennium and a half, the Norte Chico civilization entered into a period of decline. It appears the civilization ended in about 1800 BCE. The exact causes of this collapse are unknown to archaeologists, but environmental changes are a possible culprit. The other big civilizations of South America, which came after the Norte Chico decline, were the Paracas and the Nazca. They were two connected ancient cultures located in Peru. Due to limited evidence, not much is known about either. However, the following can be assumed about Paracas. The dead were wrapped in cloth and interred in tombs, therefore mummifying them. The people of Paracas made advanced textiles featuring dyes from across South America. Irrigation canals were used to bring water to crops, the production of pottery. The Paracas civilization lasted roughly between 800 BCE and 100 BCE. It was closely connected to the Nazca civilization, which either evolved from the Paracas or was at first contemporaneous before splitting apart. The Nazca culture lasted roughly from 100 BCE to 800 CE. The key contributions of these two empires to the continent were the famous, huge glyphs known as the Nazca lines. Another example of some of the stunning and mesmerizing architecture and technology these civilizations had access to: the Andes mountain range, the strip of mountains that spread vertically along the west coast of South America, all the way from the north of Peru to the bottom of Ecuador, was home to some of South America's most intriguing societies, including the Norte Chico, Paracas, and Nazca. But that wasn't all. You've got to remember how big the area of the Andes is. It's about 5,000 miles long. You had the Chavin from 900 BC to 200 BC, which lived in modern-day Peru. Also the Moche, who lived roughly around the same time, who were known for their elaborate burials and were known to trade with faraway cultures such as the Maya in Mesoamerica. They were known for some darker stuff too, like human sacrifice and blood-drinking rituals. Before we get into the rest of the Andean civilizations, like the Inca, who are probably the most famous, it's important we mention the Amazonians. While almost all of the civilizations we mentioned before were doing their thing in the Andes, far east of that was the Amazon rainforest. For a very long time, it was believed that everyone living in the Amazon were hunter-gatherers who had little to no contact with the outside world. But this theory has been shattered due to new evidence suggesting they were much more advanced than anyone could have imagined. These new discoveries are unfortunately the result of mass deforestation, which has given researchers the ability to see what lies at the bottom of the forest floor. The belief now is that the Amazon wasn't a natural occurrence at all. In fact, was a planned forest that humans began construction over 11,000 years ago. Crazy, right? It's not exactly sure what kind of civilization created and thrived in the forest, as research into it is still underway. But the first European to travel the forest by river was Francisco de Orellana in 1542, and he described seeing buildings and remnants of a very advanced civilization. His claims were dismissed, but now it looks like he was right. New technology has found evidence of soil management, which would show farming occurred. But what's even crazier is they've found roads, bridges, and even large town squares. We're super excited about what discoveries about the people that lived here will be made in the future. We're sure there are numerous mysteries just waiting to be found. But anyway, back to the Andes. The Inca were the last chapter of thousands of years of empires in the area. Before they managed to take over the whole of the Andes, there were a few smaller empires like the Tiwanaku, Titicaca, and Huari, who had been there from about the year 300 to the 1200s. But after a few hundred years of struggle, the Inca people managed to dominate the area, creating the vastest, richest, and most technologically advanced South American empires. It's one of the 5 civilizations in the world that researchers call pristine, meaning it developed independently of outside influences. They had no written language, no currency, and not even any taxes. Each member of society would contribute with labor to the empire and would then be reciprocated with food and other essentials. So, by the time the Spanish conquistadors came, it was a truly wealthy, massive empire. The Spanish had hit the jackpot. The Queen of Spain signed a charter saying they were allowed to conquer the Incas and take whatever great treasures they wanted. Although the Spanish were hugely outnumbered, and even though the Inca were the most advanced civilization in South America, their weaponry and military capabilities were hundreds of years behind the Spanish conquistadors. The Spanish had guns, steel, and cavalry, whereas the Incas were fighting with wood, stone, and bronze. What made it even easier for the Spanish were that the Inca were undergoing a civil war at the time, and the empire was divided. Through bribery, backstabbing, and bloodshed, the Spanish managed to instill a puppet leader to the Inca throne and would slowly work to subjugate all of the Andes. The last Inca stronghold was conquered in 1572, and their last ruler, Amaru Tupac, was executed. This ended the Incan resistance, and although before this, the Spanish hadn't pushed their culture too much on the Incan people, preferring to bribe and peacefully occupy many parts of the empire. This all changed after Amaru was executed. They systematically worked to destroy the Incan culture and enslaved and killed vast swathes of the population. Smallpox pandemics broke out, killing even more of the ancient South Americans who'd been there for thousands of years. A few more rebellions would break out, and indigenous leaders would try and expel the Spanish and recreate the Inca Empire. But by the 1800s, that was all over, and the long line of civilizations that had existed in the region since 3500 BC were all but destroyed.